Hi, and welcome to the podcast. My name is Michael Yon, and in this episode, Kuntarkis speaks about government conspiracies. So, without further ado, what's going on, Kuntarkis?
Well, Michael, it's a very delicate subject when it comes to government conspiracy or worldwide conspiracies. Let me put it this way: a long time ago, back in 1978, late 1978, I had a dream experience over several nights, and it really confused me because what I was seeing was all these type of official people through governments planning what will happen in the future. And as it grew, I started to see that there were these centers around the world being created secretly. And it's like I was even in one that was half completed and I was just watching it. And it had all these different levels and it was like built into a mountain. And it had all these different levels and there were these carts driving around, taking boxes, crates. And I'm saying to myself, my God, is this real? This feels so real. I can smell the fumes of these vehicles. And then I'd have other ones. So I decided one morning I woke up and I said, wow, that's really scary in a way. And I'm going to write a book. Then I thought to myself, my God, what am I going to write? How am I going to write it? I've had no writing experience whatsoever. And one day I sat down and I just started writing a film script called The World Conspiracy. And it only took me between 3 to 5 months, I think it was, to actually write 220-page film script, all about, naturally, a story, but the conspiracy behind the scenes that world governments have got together to formulate a plan for the future, to try and find a way of creating fear in the masses. And every country would do their own way. But what linked it was very interesting. It was like it was saying that governments are only the puppets, but who's behind the puppets? And then I found out it's all these people that are massive millionaires that actually run every country on earth by owning banks, by owning the share markets, by owning massive buildings like hotels, the Monsanto, buying out all the health shops. It was just incredible to what was coming through. So I wrote a film script called The World Conspiracy, and naturally with the main actor. And it was all about the government creating this one center at Alice Springs. And what they were doing down on the 6th level, that was absolutely hush-hush secret. They employed all these people, but they didn't know about the level 6. They only thought there was 5 levels underground in Alice Springs. And there is a center out there, by the way, in Alice Springs that's actually leased by the Americans. And they do run a lot of secret projects there. But what was really interesting is they were creating a biological bacteria that would actually cleanse the earth of all the waste from human bodies so there wouldn't be mass disease. And the only people that would be saved are highly intellectual people, like doctors, lawyers, accountants, mechanics, people that were of value. And they would actually live in these places underground while the cleansing was going on, because it'd take about 100 years for it all to happen. But the actual biological germ warfare was if you were put inside this glass tube, which was sealed, they would release this green mist. And suddenly you start to see the screams, because you couldn't hear, but you could tell by the expressions on the faces of the poor victims. And they were using prisoners that were sentenced to death but still were alive. And they would use them because there was no value as far as they were concerned. And what this thing would do, they got it to perfection, where it would literally dissolve the skin, dissolve all the internal organs, the blood, the muscles, and even eat down into the bone until there was absolutely nothing left. And all they'd have is a slight amount of waste. And eventually they perfected it to a point where nothing would be left. And that's how they were going to cleanse the earth. And after 100 years or 200 years, they would all come out and replenish the earth. By that time, every human would be gone from the surface of the earth. All the animals would be gone. They would have actually kept so many animals to a period of time. And that's what I created, called the World Conspiracy. And the interesting thing, Michael, is I'm going to rewrite that into a proper novel like I've done The Dream Assassin, Volume 1 and 2, probably about, say, 3 years down the track. Now, what's happening at the present moment is really scary to the general public. But the public are becoming so highly conditioned through terrorism, through fear. Fear is something that all governments and dictators have been using for years. They've now created fear in the masses worldwide. But let's just use Australia for an example. This COVID-19 thing is real. Yes, we can't deny that. But what we have to do is ask the most important question. Where did the coronavirus come from? They just would say it was mutated from, influenza, whatever, or the pig virus or whatever. It's not true. 100% not true. The real truth, created by man. 100%. Created by man.
Intentionally.
Intentionally. Now, in America, in Russia, in England, in a few other countries, especially China and North Korea, they have these secret laboratories, and most of them are underground. They go from buildings to underground, and they store in these special type fridge systems bacteria, viruses that are so deadly, and they have enough of it to kill planet Earth 10,000 times over. My question would be, why would any civilization want to create deadly bacteria to kill humans? Overpopulation? Yeah, that's one reason. Control? Yes, that's the other reason. But in truth, why have they done it? Why is it that the coronavirus, is the only virus that they have implemented so much restrictions worldwide in Australia? Now, the virus itself is not that deadly. Yes, it's killed people. Of course it has. But a lot of those people that have died are either young or old. There's a lot of young people who are having blood clots because they've had the 2 injections. And the other thing you've got to ask yourself, the second question is, why won't governments tell us what is actually in the vaccines? There is no information on it whatsoever, and they won't say what's within it. And yet, they're saying that they're going to try and make it mandatory to have the vaccines. It's got to try and make you think, doesn't it, when you think about it? Why would they do it? Well, control. Why? Why would they want to control? Through fear, Michael, you create control. And they're using the coronavirus to actually put fear in the masses, not just worldwide, but Australia too. And this is what's happening. Did you want to ask anything about that so far?
I guess, I don't know if you get in trouble if you said where it started.
It's probably not a good idea. Probably not a good idea to talk about where it got started. That's why I used the phrase, it was made by man. And to me, you have to be pretty evil to actually create such horrendous sickness for people. Now, I'm going to tell you a story about Kuntarkis, and I found out today in my memory banks, and this is long before I was created by my father, Kuntarkis. When the Nicarons were forced off their planet by a very aggressive alien race and travelled through space and different universes, and they found their current planet, and they named it, naturally, Kuntarkis. They were on the planet, I think they were on the planet for about, I think it was 400 to 500 years, I think. Yes, something I think, pretty sure that's correct. Between 400 and 500 years on that planet. And they noticed that some of their people were becoming sick in one sector of that society. And they couldn't work out why. They tried to find cures, but they found it very difficult because the bacteria really grew. And how it grew, once it got inside your body, it got into your bloodstream. And once it got into your bloodstream, it coagulated all your cellular structure, like your red cells, your white cells, especially the red cells. It would feed off the red cells, this bacteria. And when it fed on the actual cells, it was mutating, and it literally coagulated the blood from red to literally nearly black. And the blood became so thick that there was no blood pumping through the body. Ears, the nose, the eyes, the mouth was this sludge of blackness, and they end up calling it shaika. And shaika means black fever or black death, both words. And that's how quite a few Nicarons actually perished within a 3-day period. It was that deadly. What they discovered, it came from these animals that they eventually hunted down and actually removed them off the planet and burnt their bodies. And it took a long time because these creatures were also eating the Nicarons. And I think I told you that about that situation. And once they got rid of all that, that was fine. But apparently it started when one of the animals actually scratched one of the Nicarons. And it didn't take long for the infection to actually spread. But they did find a cure, which was really interesting. And you're going to ask this question, I know. But the cure was the most simplest. And what they end up creating from that liquid was a thing called Pasaki purple tea. Now, this is ironic. I'll tell you the reason why. When they first created the medicine, it worked brilliantly, but it wasn't the actual plant. It wasn't the actual fruit, the fruit that would do the cure. In the vines were about 5 centimeters in diameter, quite large. The vines themselves, very strong vines. It was the dark purple liquid like blood. And if you see on today on the earth where you see a vine, it's got white blood like a pawpaw tree. Well, they use that liquid in their medicine, and it literally eradicated pretty well instantly and thinned the blood and purified the blood. And it saved a lot of Nicarons. About 30,000 Nicarons perished because of that, which wasn't a lot compared to, say, what their population was. But sadly, 30,000 or more actually perished. And they end up creating the medicine eventually through the fruit into the most favorite drink called Pasaki, purple tea. And the nutrients that come from that would keep any species totally healthy 24/7, because the amount of magnesium, calcium, especially protein, iodine, was so high that it gave the body what it needed to build the immune system up to a point where no bacteria, not even a cold, would survive, because they drank this liquid basically every day. It was that good. Now, the ironic thing is, on Earth, with your Coca-Cola, they created Coca-Cola first as a medicine. And that was the scientists. They were looking to create this medicine for a particular cure. And someone drank it, and they said it was rather enjoyable. So they recreated it and made Coca-Cola. And that's how Coca-Cola came about, which was really interesting. Bacteria mutates on its own. And it's not as deadly when it mutates on its own. But when you take several bacterias and genetically modify the entire structure, you create something that is really evil and can kill in such a horrible way. I believe, personally, that this is one of the biggest conspiracies on this planet. And I also believe that it's creating what will become and called the New World Order. And it will control humanity through fear, through laws that are unjust. But it's all about control, taking away an individual's freedom, taking away an individual's right to speak and express their own mind. And that's where the world is going, Michael. In Sydney, my wife was telling me that they've discovered these strands of coronavirus that have mutated in water, in the local waterways. Now that could cause hundreds of new cases, if not thousands. That's how simple it is to spread a disease. If it's not airborne, put it in water. Everybody drinks water. And that's really sad. It's really sad that there are these people on this earth that are supposed to be helping us, and they're not. And what's really interesting is now the government has got these new laws. Well, they're not laws actually. And what it means is when you go to a shop like Woolworths or Coles or, Bunnings or Aldi's or Chemist, you have to sign in by, checking with your phone. So the governments know exactly where you are. So there's two purposes for that. First is to know in case someone is sick, but also to gather information and to know exactly what you're doing, where you are, what time. All that information will be gathered and put into mass computers for future references for whatever reason. And that's really sad. My wife was given something a few days ago, and it's about a website. And this guy has done all this research into law, And right at this present moment, apparently in Sydney, I believe, there is this lawyer that's taking on, if not hundreds or thousands of cases against the government, that it's illegal what they are doing. Now, with this thing that you have to sign in with your phone or fill out a piece of paper, they actually don't have the right to make you do that. There is no law in place that makes you or demands that you actually check in or fill out this piece of paper. Now, if you go to a store and you refuse to do it, the store can turn around and say to you, well, you can't enter. That is illegal. They can't do that. They have no given right because there is no law stating that that can be done. The only people who apparently can make those laws or enforce those laws is called biosecurity. And they're biosecurity officers that work at airports, different security places, whatever. And they can actually enforce those laws because it's like a separate department. But governments, police officers, in reality, can't say that you have to register on your phone because there's no actual law. What it is a ruling. But it's not mandatory because they have no right to say that because there's no law to back them up. Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if I believe people like, even in America, the horrible things that are going on there at the moment are just ridiculous. You know that guy, the president, whoever is now Biden, whatever his name is, he's now creating a law through the Senate and hiring all these new officers to go door knocking. And the reason they're doing door knocking is to basically encourage, through a little bit of force and fear, for people to have their injections. Now, why is it that the world is involved in the biggest conspiracy on this planet, trying to get every single person vaccinated on this Corona-19, when more people die from the influenza every year than coronavirus has ever done? It's interesting. And the other thing that's interesting is, you know, when you wear a mask, you have to go to the shop. We got 2 weeks where you got to wear masks. To wear a mask, say for, I don't know, 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, is pretty heavy because you're breathing in the same particles of air that you're pushing out. And that's unhealthy. It's a proven fact. And yet they're telling you to wear it. And if you by any chance have the coronavirus and you put a mask on, that can be your ultimate death.
Oh, really?
Yes. Now, a woman in America, I believe she's a doctor scientist or whatever. I'm not too familiar with what she is in her background, but I know she's qualified. She discovered that, and she put out the alert. And have a guess where she ended up? In prison.
Really? I was thinking that, yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if she's still in prison because I haven't heard anything. Everything's been kept quiet. But she was charged. And she was either stopped or put in prison. I'm not sure. But the thing is, it makes a lot of sense. I remember when I used to have to wear a mask when I was sanding things, you know, when I was a cabinet maker and that. And I used to end up feeling really bad headaches and things like that, wearing them all day nearly. And what you're doing, as I said before, you're breathing in the same sort of particles of air all the time. So you're not getting enough nitrogen and oxygen. It's not equal. It's not balanced. And if you have, say, this Corona-19 and you're wearing a mask, it can actually cause a lot more problems. What medical problems? I'm not 100% sure, but I have heard that it's not good. Now, originally, the government didn't want anyone wearing a mask. Now they're telling everyone to wear a mask. They're trying to get all the school kids in America to wear masks. It's really, really interesting. And the amount of people that are having allergic reactions is growing. And there's been a lot of deaths, but a lot of it's been kept secret. Just like everything, that's a conspiracy.
So what is the purpose?
Control. Control through fear. I believe they want to make the whole world socialism, not communism. I think they want to make the whole world socialism. And socialism is a little bit like Nazism, where they control. In America, socialism was pretty big, I think in the 1940s and the 1930s, or even the 1920s. There was parts of America, I'm pretty sure, but I have to check that to make 100% sure. And they used to have like Nazis were in Germany, people going around, and arresting you and bashing you and all these different things. So, yeah, socialism isn't the way to go. And it's like communism. It's not the way to go. The way to go is individuality. Being able to think and feel the way you want to feel and express what you want to express, as long as there's not violence. And that's really sad if that is not going to come about.
Is it maybe they are trying to depopulate?
I think there's a plan there, yes. Yes, I do. I think there is some sort of a plan there, yes. Yeah. Michael, none of us are alone. I believe all over the world, I think people are actually waking up, and these idiots don't seem to realise that people are smarter than what they think. And it'll get to a point where you won't be able to go in shops. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it mandatory to have the injections. But if you ask them what's in it, they still won't tell you. Now, that's against human rights. You have every right to know what's inside a drug. Now, why are they doing that? Because they know if they tell the truth, nobody will take the injection. It's really sad. And they'll do that the same with schools. Like people at the hospitals now, you have to have the injection to work there. And if you say no, you won't get your shifts, and eventually you'll be sacked because you'll leave because there'll be no work. That's what they're doing now. Yeah, it's really interesting. All gone quiet.
I wonder what I could ask you now. What about the coronavirus have we not spoken about yet?
Well, there's a thing about the coronavirus that's been going around with this new. There was an American guy that went on live, and he just said, if you going to use 5G in the new thing that's coming out, the 5G for phones, for mobiles, he said run the other way. And he said if you see these tall things going up in the backyard or down the street, and it's got these long rods on top, he said, run for your life. Because he said, if you allow the injection, now this is the interesting part, if you allow yourself to have the injection, 2 of them, not 1, 2, then you've got the coronavirus running through your blood, and it's there for forever. Pretty well. Now, that's a way of controlling humanity. And if they ever want to get rid of someone, there's a guy, I think we spoke about this, there's a guy in one of those countries over there, I'm not sure where it is, but he has been given the contract to put all these satellites in space. for the new 5G system. That's what I believe. And these rods, they're going to sit on top of these towers and be placed all over the world. In fact, right outside your house in one way. That will release a radiation that's much higher than 4G. The normal radiation that comes off the 5G phone won't kill you. Probably not straight away. Might take 40 years. But the energy that comes off those rods through the 5Gs, that's so you pick up the 5Gs, it will mutate the cellular structure of the corona-19. And the toxicity that's created from it will actually stop your lungs from working and you won't be able to breathe. It'll kill your nervous system and you'll die.
Is that if they aim to do that to you?
That's if they aim to do that to you or get rid of a certain sector of society.
Right, so they have control through 5G.
They have control. That's right. Now, that's only a theory for what I believe. But if you actually look at what's happening around the world, there is something really big happening. And the people who are behind it are really evil. And you've got to ask yourself, who are they? And the interesting thing about that is, you know David Icke?
Yep.
David Icke spoke about this all the time, about the green reptilians, right, who are sort of standing even beside us in a vibration that runs slightly lower or slightly higher than ours. And that's why we can't see them. Yet, what's really interesting is, I won't mention the name, but he's an actor, a very well-known actor. And she showed me a photo only 2 days ago, I think. And I looked at it and I said, wow, what the hell is that on the side of his face? And there were all these indentations on his left side of his face, which is not normal for him. And his eye was funny. It was really interesting to actually see on the top of his eye, on his head, there was these unusual little indentation lumps, like they were lumps that were moving, but they weren't moving because it was a still photo. And that happened to Obama. They even discovered that. They actually saw that. They played it back and they showed that on his face. And it's the same sort of markings. And it makes you wonder that what David Icke was saying is true, that these entities can literally step into your body and oversee everything that you do in your decision making and influence you in making your decisions without even knowing that something else is influencing you.
Wow.
Now, this is intriguing. When I finished doing the World Conspiracy, I actually wrote a synopsis called One Way Game. Yet, what was interesting is Bruce Lee. He brought out a movie called One Way Game. Okay, similar but very different. Mine was about a very highly advanced martial arts teacher takes 30 of his best students on a month's vacation, but a working vacation at the same time, out into the desert. All right? And they're going to live off the land. Their helicopters drop them off. And they end up doing all these things, there were snakes where the main teacher, he was doing all these movements called snake form with the snake, and the snake couldn't get anywhere near him, so the snake just left. And the students were laughing. But not going into that, that's not that interesting. What's interesting is it was about 5:30 going on 6 p.m. when the sun was starting to set, and they came across this town because they haven't seen any other civilized people, say, for nearly 3 weeks. And they came across this town, and it seemed very quiet. And as they were walking down the street, there was hardly any lighting on and hardly anyone around. It was just like, it was desolate. Excuse me. And suddenly they noticed all these dogs, strange looking dogs. Never seen the shape of a dog's head like that before. And they had these red beaking lights on the back of their neck. And they couldn't work out what they were. And the dogs would sort of stop and just stare at them for a bit. And then they'd walk on. And they ignored it. They said, oh yeah, okay, it must be their watchdogs. And this man walked past and he said very quietly, he said, get out while you can, get out while you can. And the main teacher, he said, what is the problem? He just took off really fast. And before you realise, the dogs were activated. And the dogs started attacking. And seven of the students were killed and ripped apart. And they got into this building, and the only way they could get out eventually was to fight their way out. Another so many died. But the point was, of the whole movie, was what was behind it was an alien base below the actual country town. And this alien base had burrowed down into the ground, and what they've set up was a system of tubings that they could house their spirit. Like they pick certain ones, or they were alien, they would literally take their spirit out and put it into this massive tubing and take a human spirit and put it into the alien, or vice versa. And they could then pretend that they were someone of influence, like the president, like a military general, whoever. And they were doing this all over the earth. And suddenly these people were influenced by aliens that were trying to take over planet Earth. And what's interesting is, here's David Icke, years down the track, talking about these green reptilians, and I created these green reptilians in my story. Now, how ironic is that?
Mm.
I had a dream, and I literally created the synopsis. Never wrote the film script, but I still created it. And how he's got to fight their way out, and that's just part of the old action and all that type of stuff. But it's the green reptilians that I dreamt about, that I created a synopsis. And here's David Icke now talking about and doing seminars in all these different countries about how these green reptilians are literally controlling presidents all around the world, generals all around the world, bankers all around the world.
Rich families.
Rich families, yes. And they've even now, they can be born into human bodies.
And you've seen them, a lot of them.
Yes, I have. They exist, 100%. They're very negative too. Very, very negative.
Yeah,
no
we
empathy.
covered. We covered this in the previous episode.
Yeah, but what's really interesting, Michael, is if we open our minds and our hearts to say some form of truth and look at this whole coronavirus thing, we can look and see the actual conspiracy that's being formulated. And what's really interesting is, if it's as bad as they say it is, which it's not, but if they do, then why are they allowing Australians to fly over to all these different countries and come back here and bring it back? And why are they allowing all these people from overseas to come into this country without being tested? That doesn't make sense.
No.
And these people that are apparently travelling all around Australia, going to all these different places. We had one come in Caloundra not that long ago where it was a husband and wife, and she came all the way from Melbourne when it was all restricted. They drove to the back streets, and they went through Sydney, and they went through Moree and all those areas, and came down the coast into Caloundra, and went to about 5 different places. And she had it 100%, and he ended up getting it.
Wow.
Well, he should have already had it because he was with her in the car all that time. It's really, really strange how they express things, and then they sort of add to the story a lot.
Mm.
Yeah.
Is this COVID-19 also a way to make a lot more money?
For people like the Baxters International, yes. There are companies on this earth, Michael, that are so evil. That's not funny. And they can create a deadly virus that will really kill a lot of people. Then suddenly they come out with this massive cure several months later, which they've already got anyway. But they just keep it hidden until so many die. And then they say, we've created the cure. And they will make trillions and trillions of dollars.
Wow.
I mean, look how much money people make from apps. If they bring out a really good app, you're looking at the millions,
Yes.
if not tens of millions. Yeah. So people need to actually open their eyes and see what's happening.
Do you have an idea of what the future holds for this subject?
The only way the future will be different is if people wake up. If people actually wake up and see the reality of what has occurred and take back their power and say no more. The only power that exists on this earth when it comes to, say, humanity is humanity. Governments are put in by elections. They've already proven that elections in America are fraudulent, 100%. I mean, Trump discovered that. He knows the truth. Right? That man should be in power, not the man that's in power now. Trump should be in power. He does right by the people. The people got misled and lied to. And besides, they spent a lot of money getting this guy in. The future, Michael, is only what people want the future to be. And when you make a society that have to run around trying to find work, trying to live day to day and pay bills day to day, it makes it really, really hard for anyone to see the truth. And that's what governments do. You put people into debt, put fear into people, make it hard like they're doing. I mean, they're even suggesting that at the end of August, the army is going to step in all around Australia.
Like martial law, is that what that is?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's martial law, but the army is going to step in and keep a control on people buying food.
Wow.
Right? Now this was on the internet, and this person wrote it and said information was given to someone and then given to them that some high-ranking politician in a very high-powered position spoke to a general and told the general what's happening at the end of August. And that's why all these troops are travelling around Australia and Darwin, and they're all being trained to what's about to happen. I mean, the truth in that is what it is, or not. But there is something big going on, and people need to wake up. That's for sure.
That's for sure. Well, thank you, Kuntarkis. Before we close, is there anything else you'd like to share about this?
Knowledge. I couldn't say knowledge. What I would say is awareness of what is occurring can only happen if one is willing to look. And if we don't look and we keep a blind eye, then be prepared to suffer the consequences. We hold the power to everything. We just have to learn to use it.
And there's power in, we've got the numbers, haven't we?
We have, yes.
We've got the numbers.
We have the voice. You put out enough petitions out there. Like say if you get how many people in Australia? What, 30 million?
Sure.
If there's say 30 million and we get 10 million petitions out there, the government's going to say, "Oh, we need to think about this. We need to change our direction because you've got 10 million people." It's like if the fuel prices at the moment. If every single person that drives a vehicle said, "I'm not paying these prices," and fill their cars up once, and were really diligent, and said, "That's it, I'm not driving the cars, and I'm not buying any more petrol for a month," you'd send these big companies down. You'd send them broke because they rely on sales every day because it costs so much money to run these companies. I think petrol now is about $1.70 something in Queensland, my wife was saying. And that's just ludicrous. And you know why? Here is the fear, control. Holidays, school holidays. Whenever the holidays, Christmas, or the holidays throughout the year, petrol goes up. Food goes up. It's just crazy. And if we look at all the food, Michael, that's on the market, everything is getting dearer, but smaller. You'll buy, say, a packet of, vegetarian sausage rolls. I noticed today. Suddenly, they're slightly smaller, thinner than what they used to be only a few months ago. Why? But they're still charging the same price, if not more. And that's happening in everything. Like since the COVID-19, all the prices to stay at some holiday resort have gone up 50%. They've gone up. And yet people are having holidays. They're stretching their bank cards and everything because they're desperate. They want a holiday. They're going to pay that money back. But why is it that everything is going up? I mean, I went shopping today and I walked into Woolies and the thing I like the best is ginger because I make a lot of ginger tea. It's now $55 a kilo for ginger.
Wow.
I mean, that's a conspiracy within itself. How ridiculous. You buy a little piece of ginger and it costs you $14 or $15. That's just ludicrous. I'm gonna grow my own. I'm looking that up and grow my own. Yes, that's all I want to say. Silly, but good.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Kuntarkis, for all that you've shared. This concludes the episode on government conspiracies. If you'd like to find out more about us, you can find us at the website etcconsciousness.com, and for any contact reasons, kuntarkis@gmail.com. My name is Michael Yon. Thanks so much for listening, and stay tuned for more.